I gotta dip out real quick to let the folks in the previous video know that this is now a two-parter. Be right back. Actually, no. Ha. Shorter bearded Nick from the next video here.
You must understand the Psijic Order does not typically intervene directly in events.
Welcome back to the Frozen Hearth for the next installment of my holiday drinks in the Elder Scrolls series. If you missed the previous part, check it out. We tasted sweet nog and warm spiced milk from the Elder Scrolls Cookbook Volume 1. Today we are tasting a recipe from Talviel's kitchen called Moon-Sugar Veggnog. That is, as the name suggests, vegetarian/vegan, and comparing it to a similar but not vegan eggnog-inspired cocktail from Puerto Rico called Coquito. In a way, because Talviel's vegan recipe is a dairy-free nog, it might be more Nord-friendly than the cookbook's recipe, or it at least aligns with their verbal disdain for milk drinkers. As always, let's hear the recipe from Talviel herself.
Thanks, Nick. 'Tis the season to sink into a hot, sweet, creamy drink, and I have the perfect recipe to get you into the festive spirit. Eggnog is a common winter beverage in Skyrim, though the idea of egg in a drink is pretty odd for non-natives. So in keeping with the tradition of giving and sharing with the community during this time of year, I've decided to make this a vegan recipe, so everyone can join in. This is all the flavour and texture of regular eggnog, minus eggs and milk. You will need 1 cup of coconut or almond milk,
I'll do both for comparison.
2 cups of coconut cream, 3/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 vanilla bean pods scraped, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon plus extra for dusting, 1 teaspoon ground nutmeg, half a teaspoon ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger powder, and optionally, rum, Baileys, or another sweet liquor.
To keep it veg, we'll skip the Baileys. We also don't need the rum right now, so I'm gonna take that away.
For the method, in a small pot, heat the coconut cream and milk on a medium heat, then add the sugar and stir it until melted. Add the spices and vanilla and simmer for 5 minutes uncovered. Remove from the heat and serve with a shot of liquor if desired. For a cold version, leave veggnog to cool to room temperature before refrigerating. Serve in a tall glass with ice.
Thanks, Talviel.
Thanks, Nick.
Here it is. Moon-Sugar Veggnog. As mentioned, I went a cut above and made the almond milk from scratch. The typical process of soaking almonds is too labor-intensive for my tastes, and it strips some of the goodness in my opinion. But I used to work at a company that makes a specialized blender strainer for plant-based milks called the Nutrimilk, and I still have one from my time there. After using it once, I really don't think there's a better way to make it at home. I don't get commission from them or anything, but I really believe in the product's utility, so here's a link to their website if that's your thing and you want to check them out. Anyways, as previously stated, I've prepared almond milk and coconut milk variants here. We'll spike after tasting without any booze, and as Talviel mentioned, it does bear a striking similarity to Coquito, so I've made a batch ahead of time to compare to cold versions later. First up, the almond milk variant, served warm with no booze. I like the cinnamon on the nose, and I think there's a little bit of ginger kind of hiding in the back there. It's not as vanilla forward as I thought it would be. Let's see how it tastes. It does have an incredibly similar consistency to eggnog, not necessarily Alton Brown's aged eggnog, but the eggnogs from the store like Dairy Gold and Southern Comfort. However, it is not quite so abrasive as those, and the spices used are in such a different proportion that I think they end up being a little bit more almost woodsy, and I think part of that can be attributed to the almond milk here. Being homemade, it's going to have a little bit more nuttiness, and I think that may be influencing my palate. The vanilla is incredibly nice, and I do see how rum would make this just go from here to here. Now let's compare it to the coconut milk version, also no booze, also warm. And this one might be a little warmer right now. The nose might just have a little bit more creaminess and vanilla, and the other spices are kind of taking a back seat. It's still very hot. That is very nice. It is much creamier, I would say, than the almond milk one, despite the almond milk one being a little bit thicker, and the ginger and vanilla are definitely coming through a lot more. Honestly, the nutmeg on both of these is toned down. The clove is definitely coming through on this one more so than on the almond milk one, but it's really prevalent on the finish. Okay, now let's spike these. Talviel suggests rum, Bailey's, or other sweet liqueur, but I'll go with rum to keep our Veggnog veg. Bailey's would undo that, given that it's made with dairy. Also, rums have a range of sweetnesses, but in general, darker and lower ABV expressions tend to be a little bit sweeter, so I'll go with some Gosling's Black Seal Bermuda Black Rum, shaken, not stirred. After my aged eggnog video this year, it is very apparent that stirring is a waste of time if you want to get a little bit more structure, head, and thickness in a beverage like this. I'm not going to go too crazy, I'll just do an ounce in each. Given that they're hot, they're creating a little bit of pressure, so I'm gonna shake them one at a time. That was a mistake. The cold ones will not have this problem. Also, given that the coconut milk one was hotter, it created more steam, so that one was a bit of a problem. So I guess don't do what I do. Don't shake hot drinks. But for my purposes today, it was fine. All right, first up, almond milk spiked. Definitely getting that rum on the nose. It is welcome. Oh yeah, that brought the nuttiness out of the almond milk a lot more than I thought it would. That's crazy. Yeah, that's nice. I like that. It also toned down the sweetness and gave some room for the vanilla to come back up to the foreground, so I'm very much happy about that. And the cinnamon is kind of just a through line through everything, but it's also not too dominant, so I can live with that. That is awesome. Over to the spiked coconut milk version, which is very bubbly on the top, almost as if it's mad at me for shaking it. Oh yeah, that brought the cloves out like 10 more times. And the nutmeg. I'm really picking up on that now. Yeah, it's interesting how the different milks play differently with the different spices. Lastly, I have a glass of each chilling in the refrigerator currently to compare to Coquito, which I made ahead of time. A lot of recipes out there erroneously call for ingredients that push it closer to regular eggnog. In particular, eggs and or dark rum. There is no official Coquito recipe, but it is generally accepted that the traditional preparation calls for coconut milk, coconut cream, Puerto Rican white rum, condensed milk, evaporated milk, and occasionally some vanilla, cinnamon, and or nutmeg for some extra spice. I followed Butter Be Ready's incredibly simple recipe, which involved just chucking everything into a blender, pouring the mixture over some extra cinnamon sticks in a big mason jar, and sticking in the fridge to cure for a day. I also opted for Puerto Rico's #1 white rum in Don Q, as it is leagues better than everyone's ethanol-forward default of Bacardi Silver. However, something of note, unlike Talviel's recipe that involves heat in the preparation, this drink obviously doesn't. Something I should have done was warm up the coconut ingredients before adding to the blender, as the coconut fats did not fully emulsify in the mixing. After realizing my error at a holiday get-together a few days ago, I stuck my remaining jar in a sous vide last night, warmed it up just enough to melt the fats, and promptly stuck it back in the fridge to rechill for our tasting today. One final thing I should note to you all. Butter Be Ready's recipe called for cream of coconut. But do not confuse cream of coconut with coconut cream. Cream of coconut is heavily sweetened, while coconut cream is not sweetened at all. I actually started making Talviel's recipe with cream of coconut since I had some left over from making the Coquito recipe, but then realized at the last minute that if I added the brown sugar, we were gonna end up with an excessively syrupy beverage indeed. Just goes to show how important it is to understand your recipe ahead of time and taste as you go. Let me make some room for the chilled stuff. Okay, first up are chilled Veggnogs over ice. Cold is killing the noses. let's see how they taste. Sweetness is reduced on the almond milk one, no surprises there, but otherwise it tastes pretty much the same. And same on the coconut. Yeah, in fact, the temperature on this one means that I'm really having a hard time spotting a difference in flavor between the almond and the coconut milks. That woodsy nuttiness on the warmer almond milk is not really there on it. The lighter creaminess on the coconut one is also not as present or as noticeable. Let's see what some rum does, and then compare to Coquito. And I'll just pour my little Coquito glass here real quick. Okay, first up, the spiked cold almond milk variant Veggnog. The woodsy elements are brought back, so I'm picking up on that cloviness, some ginger kick, a little more cinnamon. It's good. Now the coconut. I'm also getting more ginger on the cold coconut version, and a little more woodsiness. Honestly, again, I can't stress enough how much the cold versions make very little difference which milk was used. So, whether that's good or bad for you, you tell me, you decide. I do think I'm partial to the cold version because the warmer ones have so much more sweetness on the palate, which kind of harshes my vibe a little bit. The cold versions are where it's at for me, but you just pick up on more of the other flavors, and the sweetness just sort of helps them along the way. And I mean, it sort of makes sense. Nobody wants to drink warm soda. It starts to taste syrupy. So, over to the Coquito for a comparison. I didn't fully warm it up as long as I should have because the coconut fats did re-harden a little bit. But they melt in your mouth, it's fine. It's a tricky balance there though. All things aside though, this is a much lighter and almost more refreshing version of what's going on over here. Like, these are hearty and robust, but the Coquito is just a pleasant little refreshing holiday treat, which makes sense. It's a holiday drink from Puerto Rico. It's hot there. I like it. I like it a lot. This would have been a more one-to-one comparison if I had adjusted Butter Be Ready's Coquito recipe to use coconut cream rather than cream of coconut, and spiked the Veggnog with the same Puerto Rican white rum. Depending on how long this takes to edit, I may have time to prepare an adjusted Coquito so we can taste them side by side on the gaming channel and play a little more Skyrim before the end of the year. If that interests you, be sure to subscribe to the gaming channel to let me know you want to see that happen. No matter how you prepare it, the Veggnog is a great drink, and once again highlights the collaboration of Nordic and Khajiit ingredients to make fantastic drinks. Now, if only the Nords would permit the cats into their cities, I think there could be some great cultural influences to be shared. Anyways, there you have it. This wraps up 3 fantastic beverages for my Elder Scrolls and Eggnog fans out there. From the first video on holiday drinks in the Elder Scrolls Cookbook, the warm spiced milk is a unique take on some nostalgic flavors. The sweet nog was the Eggnog and Elder Scrolls hybrid this channel needed, lore contradictions aside. And from this video, the Moon-Sugar Veggnog from Talviel's Kitchen provides a good dairy-free alternative for the lactose intolerant and or vegan viewers. If you're avoiding booze at the moment, I hope some non-alcoholic recipe inclusions were appreciated. Speaking of, I gotta dip out real quick to let the folks in the previous video know that this is now a 2-parter. Be right back.
And listen well.
Actually, no. Hi. Shorter bearded Nick from the next...
You must understand the Psijic Order does not typically intervene directly in events.
1 second. Gotta do the outro too.
Sorry,
In the next video, that
Never
is.
mind. Clearly I should not be here.
Okay, time loops closed and dragon break averted. Gotta thank the Psijics for keeping me accountable.
I suppose thanks are in order. It is time for us to go.
This is my final video of 2024, and I can't thank you enough for tuning into the channel this year. We've grown a lot, but I've got about a zillion more videos to make next year. I've got a lot of meads that are almost done. I've been poring over the new Elder Scrolls and Game of Thrones cookbooks. We still need to finish Talonjay's special drinks, and I think we're long overdue for a trek back to the Wasteland. A like and subscribe would be most appreciated if you enjoyed these videos, but if you're feeling particularly giving and want to support the channel as we go into some fantastic projects in the new year, channel memberships and Patreon supporters are the best way to help me out as the channel grows. But I mean this, only do so if you wouldn't miss the coins spent. I think 2025 should be a bigger year for the gaming channel too, so again, subscribe over there if you want less drink-oriented content as well. For more eggnog, tap here to check out this year's aged eggnog experiment. It was a doozy. Or for more Khajiiti recipes, tap here for the skooma video that came out on 4/20. It was also a doozy, but for different reasons. Thank you for watching, my friends. Have a fantastic remainder of the holiday season, and I'll see you in the next video in 2025. Cheers.